Good morning, sir and classmates. My name is Maria Patricia Luis A. Flores, and we will be reporting about the organizational design and structures. Our report will be covering the following topics: definition of organizational structure, two types of organizational structure, elements of organizational design, types of formal organizational design and structure, and implementation of organization design. First off, let us define organizational structure. What is organizational structure? Organizational structure is a system used to define a hierarchy within an organization. It identifies its job, its function, and where it reports to within the organization. This structure is created to define how an organization runs and to aid it in achieving its objectives in order to allow for future growth. An organizational chart is used to show how the structure works. There are two types of organizational structure: centralized structure and decentralized organization structure. Centralized structure defines as the top management defines and handles all decisions and processes, while decentralized organization structure is day-to-day tasks and the decision-making processes are delegated to the supervisors at the middle and lower level. In centralized structure, employees and supervisors are accountable for ensuring that decisions are implemented correctly and must adhere to them. Employees at the bottom of the chain of command have, have little influence in decision making. The centralized structure has a top-down approach for decision flow. The power of decision making is held at the top level and there is a wide chain or hierarchy of managers and subordinates. This structure is often used in fast food businesses and retail chains. For example, Pizza Hut, McDonald's, H&M, and Apple all use centralized structure to ensure that control is maintained over their many thousands of outlets. Centralized management is best used in companies that prioritize their manufacturing strategy and reducing operating costs. Centralization is also helpful for encouraging collaboration between departments, streamlining best practices, and coordinating with external stakeholders or third-party vendors. Pros and cons of centralized structure. First, clear communication and chain of command. A centralized organization benefits from a clear chain of command because every person within the organization knows who to report to. Junior employees know who to approach whenever they have concerns about the organization. Second, cost reduction, or in other words, administrative cost. A centralized organization adheres to standard procedures and methods that guide the organization, which helps reduce office and administrative costs. Third, fast implementation of decisions. In a centralized organization, decisions are made by a small group of people and then communicated to the lower level managers. The involvement of only a few people makes the decision-making process more efficient since they can discuss the details of each decision in one meeting. Improved work equality and reduction in task replication. The standardized procedures and better supervision in a centralized organization result in improved quality of work. There are supervisors in each department who ensure that the outputs are uniform and of high quality. Cons: dictatorship in terms of leadership. Centralized management resembles a dictatorial form of leadership where employees are only expected to deliver results according to what the top executives assigned to them. Employees are unable to contribute to the decision-making process of the organization, and they are merely implementers of decisions made at a higher level. Work delays due to dependency on management. Centralization results in delays in work as records are sent to and from the head office. Employees rely on the information communicated to them from the top, and there will be a loss in man-hours if there are delays in relaying the records. This means that the employees will be less productive if they need to wait long periods to get guidance on their next projects. Employees feel disconnected and result reduced work efficiency. The organization's executives are under tremendous pressure to formulate decisions for the organization, and they lack control over the implementation process. The failure of executives to decentralize the decision-making process adds a lot of work to their desks. Lastly, lack of authority in managers. In centralization, there is no initiative in work because employees perform tasks conceptualized by top executives. This limits their creativity and loyalty to the organization due to the rigidity of their work. What is decentralized structure? A decentralized organizational structure is one in which senior management has shifted the authority for some types of decision-making to lower levels in the organization. The top management can focus on other major decisions by letting the middle and lower level executives jump in the process of decision-making. This structure increases the responsibility and accountability of the employees. Typically, decentralized businesses are divided into smaller segments or groups in order to make it easier to measure the performance of the company and the individuals within each of the subgroups. In this flowchart, the business is divided into subgroups: marketing, production, mechanical, purchase, and accounts. The top tier of organization retains a small span of control for making major, organization-wide decisions. They set the company's mission, vision, strategic plan, and so on. The remaining decisions, as well as the authority and the responsibility to carry out operations, are delegated as much as possible down the ranks to the lower tier of management and sometimes even employees. An example of a business using the centralized structure would be Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson recognizes that management in the United States would struggle to manage overseas sites because they lack the necessary knowledge about them. Here is a quick rundown of the pros and cons of a decentralized structure. Pros: better customer service, better staff motivation, quick decisions, effective communication, improved supervision and control. Cons: difficult coordination, expensive process, and unnecessary cost increase due to benefits by external factors. Example: Mark, the HR manager at ABC company, has to finalize a deal with a vendor at the job portal for hiring, and for this, he negotiates best practices with discounts to close the deal. If his company is decentralized, he has authority to close the deal all by himself with the vendor without seeking any approval for the management, which in turn results in finalizing cost-effective and quick decision-making. Here are the other pros and cons of using a decentralized structure. First, it can help the organization grow overall. There are more opportunities to groom leaders and bring out the potential of employees in this type of setup. Second, it encourages accountability and transparency. Local managers and employees will be motivated to take more ownership of their work since they know they are carrying more responsibility. It becomes easier to identify areas that need development and difficulties, resulting in more openness. Furthermore, decision-making becomes more of a collaborative process in which more individuals may contribute their ideas. As a result, when mistakes and bad decisions are made, there are fewer fall guys. Third, it develops more leaders. Since the top management has distributed the responsibility and decision making, they can focus less on day-to-day problem solving and more on pursuing the long-term vision for the company. Processes can be done more efficiently and more quickly, speeding up the growth potential of the company. Lastly, it breeds innovation and flexibility. Because there is less bureaucracy and obstacles to open exchange of ideas, more skilled individuals may contribute their ideas and be encouraged to create and come up with out-of-the-box solutions. Cons. First, it isn't ideal for new organizations. Startups are still finding their footing, so they need a strong and capable leadership to guide them towards the right path. If they pass on the decision making and responsibility to number of staff who are still learning the ropes and acquiring the required skills, the organization could end up with no direction and large losses. Second, it can breed unhealthy competition. Local managers from different departments who have the same level ranks may clash. And because they know they have independent decision-making roles, resolving inter-department conflicts may become more difficult. Aside from that, same-level leaders who are competing may refuse to coordinate and cooperate with each other. Third, it duplicates work. Some organizations that follow a decentralized structure hire support groups for each of their specialized departments. Activities, processes, and outcomes may also be duplicated, and all this result to additional costs. Lastly, it makes the implementation of uniform organization policies more challenging. Different managers can perceive company rules and standards differently, so implementing uniform and consistent policies may be more difficult. What are the key differences of centralized structure and decentralized structure? First, centralization is the unification of powers and authorities in the hands of high-level management. Decentralization means dispersal of powers and authorities by the top level to the functional level management. Second, centralization is the systematic and consistent concentration of authority at central points. Decentralization is the systematic delegation of authority in an organization. Third, centralization is best for a small size organization, but large size organizations should practice decentralization. Fourth, formal communication exists in the centralized organization. In this in decentralization, communication stretches in all directions. Fifth, decision making takes time in centralization due to the concentration of powers in the hands of a single person. Decentralization proves better at decision making as decisions are taken much closer to actions. Sixth, there are full leadership and coordination in centralization. Decentralization shares the burden of the top level managers. Lastly, when the organization has inadequate control over the management, then centralization is implemented. When the organization has full control over its management, decentralization is applied. And let us proceed to organizational design. What is organizational design? Organizational design is a process for shaping the way your organization operates. to help you to pursue your strategies and meet your goals. It involves setting up structures and systems, as well as helping people to adapt to new ways of working. With the help of with the help of organizational design, one can identify and eliminate any kind of duplicity in work, inefficient work, poor customer dealing, blame games, obstacles in the decision-making process, shortfalls in systems and processes which result in the decline of efficiency of the employees, lack of trust among superiors and subordinates, and so on. Organizational design is a formal process of integrating people, information, and technology. And organizational structure is the formal authority, power, and roles in an organization. Typically, there are three key causes for organization design. First, a change in the environment. Changes here could refer to internal or external changes. Perhaps you've brought some new technology, or a rival has entered your territory. Maybe an important piece of legislation affecting your business has changed. Second, a change in strategy. An organization might take the strategic decision to approach its work in a different way for any number of reasons. It might also change the ways it measures success. For example, a publishing company might decide to produce less in print, offer more free content online, and aim to generate more of its profits from advertising, in which case it would have to set new goals for website engagement and advertising revenue, which would in turn trigger a need to redesign its organization and structure so that it could successfully achieve its new strategic goals. Third, a current design that is no longer fit for purpose. Change is often gradual, but at some point in time, a tipping point is reached at which the organization recognizes a need to adapt to such changes. Perhaps your organization has continued to uphold a very strict hierarchical structure and has so far been unwilling to offer flexible working options. But recently, it's noticed that this has negatively affected recruitment and staff retention. Absences are also up and engagement is low. Enough's enough. Your organizational design needs to change if you are to continue to attract and retain the talent you need to stay competitive. There are two main approaches of organizational design: hierarchical and organic. When we say hierarchical, usually it is a very rigid and complex with a top-down management approach. While organic, it is a more flexible, flat structure where collaboration and two-way participation is encouraged between leaders and team members. Now let's discuss elements of organizational design. First, we have work specialization. It is a process that assigns each professional to a specific task. Management experts frequently give duties to the individual most suited for them. This indicates that a professional's job history, skill set, and education are all relevant to the assignment. Work specialization enables an employer to devote less time and resources to training and more to other business demands. For example, factory and warehouse companies use work specialization for assembly line workers. In a factory that specializes in making gift baskets, one professional may arrange the decorative paper in the basket while another professional adds fruits to the basket. Pros and cons of work specialization. Pros: it increases production or productivity, it increases in job satisfaction, and it increases in product quality. Cons: it increases in cost, and it increase in employee turnover due to similar kind of job. Second, we have departmentalization and compartments. Departments and compartments are teams of professionals within a larger company. This component of organizational design allows each compartment or department to focus on a specific task the professionals in each group work together to achieve. Departments are often a group of workers with the same overall functions. For example, a company delivering IT services to other businesses might have teams assigned to each company. Each team might have a project manager, a graphic designer, a coding specialist, a security specialist, and a client rep and service provider. Compartments might have teams with different department members that are put together for efficiency. They are often broken down by broad categories such as functional, product, geographical, process, and customer. Common departments include accounting, manufacturing, customer service, and sales. Third, we have chain of command and line of command. The chain of command of a company describes the business hierarchy and can affect workplace culture and the efficiency of work production. An organizational chart can visually portray each employee's place in the company hierarchy, and the company may have a strict or flexible chain of command. With a strict chain of command, each employee has a direct supervisor with an exception for the chief executive officer. In a more flexible chain of command, the owner may be the highest point of contact, then a manager or two in the middle with the rest of the employees ranker under the managers. What are the pros and cons of chain of command? Pros: it increase in productivity due to close monitoring of employees' performance by supervisor. It also increase in quality and profits, clear communication due to direct supervision, and conflict resolution or clear instructions. Cons: it is not feasible for big organizations due to tight management control on everything. Delay in decision making due to much dependency on management, less sense of belongingness by employees and less initiatives, and lastly, office politics due to power centralization. Fourth, we have span of control. The span of control is the organizational design element that considers the capacity of any manager. Clarifying a specific span of control can ensure managers can handle all their tasks while overseeing daily operations and monitoring the progress of their designated team members. The ideal span of control can depend on the variety of factors including workplace size, manager abilities, company goals, company structure, and leadership style. There are limits to the number of people one person can oversee and supervise. The span of control addresses this design element. Here's an example of span of control in a business company. So we have wide span of control. So sa top, meron tayong general manager. Then second is manager sales. And sa baba ng manager sales, meron tayong mga sales officers. So what are the pros and cons of span of control? So first, sa pros, delegation of authority by superiors to subordinates. Clear communication and few managers and more employee empowerment. Cons naman is decision-making barriers. Managers are overloaded and lastly require more skilled and trained managers. Fifth, we have centralization and decentralization. Centralization and decentralization are organizational design elements deciding the degree which decision making is made at one central level or at various levels by employees. For example, with centralization, some companies give the senior level of professionals complete influence over the decision-making process, while with decentralization, a company may seek the input of lower-level employees as well. Allowing more employees to influence company practices can give employees a stronger sense of pride and satisfaction in their work. However, allowing only senior staff members to share their input can be more time effective. So centralization refers to centralizing an organizational system where planning and decision-making authority is allotted either to a single person or the top management. The centralized organization is the one where planning and decision-making are handed over to middle or low levels. So in the left side, meron tayong centralized organization. And sa right side naman, yung decentralized organization. So what are the pros and cons of centralized organization? So pros, managing complexity and specialization, right decision making for unplanned decisions, managing crisis situation, reduce duplication of tasks. Cons, more complex and dynamic environment, less efficient and handling diverse organization, and lack of sense of belonging by employees and delay in decision making. Pros and cons of decentralized organization. Pros, quick decisions, competitive culture to improve the performance of employees and to increase initiatives, and development of managers in independent decision making. Cons, we have duplicity of work and result in high cost and ambiguity in plans and processes. So that's my report. Thank you for listening to my report, and the next reporter will be Sarah Kabugayan. Thank you po.